at these two.
In a moment, these lovers won't ever forget.
Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy.
And one the world can't stop talking about.
I'm not quite sure what to do. Did we rumble here?
They had like the kiss cam kind of thing that goes around that zeroed in on this one couple.
They don't even get caught if they're just both at the concert together. They only get caught because they're openly canoodling at the concert. It betrays a lack of respect for any sort of judgment, but also for a basic value system.
The ripple was still spreading when Andy Byron decided he'd had enough. His name, his image, and that now infamous moment on the Jumbotron at Fenway Park were everywhere, not just on social media, but in office group chats, headlines, and even late-night jokes. What was supposed to be a night of music and light had somehow flipped into a corporate nightmare that threatened to haunt both his professional life and his personal reputation.
Kiss Cam is known for its heartwarming moments, but it caught an awkward one at a Coldplay concert. It zoomed in on a couple cuddling, but internet sleuths were quick to work out why they didn't want to be seen.
Coldplay threw a couple on the Kiss Cam. Turns out they were having an affair? I don't think even Coldplay can fix this.
Coldplay had moved on to another city, but Andy was still stuck in Boston, watching millions of views rack up on a video that had captured him in a tight embrace with his company's head of HR, Kristen Cabot. But it wasn't just the camera angle that got him. It was what happened next. Chris Martin's playful but piercing comment that instantly reframed that innocent-looking hug into something scandalous. Either they're having an affair or they're just very shy, Martin had quipped. The crowd roared, but for Andy Byron, that laugh didn't end at Fenway. It echoed across the internet, where fans, journalists, and tech insiders began dissecting every detail. The moment Andy Byron appeared on the stadium's giant screen with Kristen Cabot might have seemed random, but behind that fleeting glimpse was a story no one expected to surface.
Now, a US tech company boss has been suspended. That's after a viral video appeared to show him hugging a woman at a Coldplay concert. Astronomer says that its chief executive, Andy Byron, has been put on leave, although the company stopped short of confirming if he is the one captured in the footage. The video, which appears to show Byron embracing the company's HR director, was shown on a giant screen at the concert in Boston.
Andy wasn't just another Coldplay fan. He was the CEO of Astronomer, a rising tech company valued at over $1 billion, known for preaching ethics and corporate integrity. Kristen Cabot, seated next to him that night, had only joined the company 9 months earlier as head of HR. The optics were impossible to ignore. A CEO and his top HR executive, caught on camera looking far too cozy for comfort, suddenly pulling apart as soon as they realized thousands of eyes and phones were on them. But wait until you hear this part.
Oh, she's talking to her friend. That's her friend.
I'm not quite sure.
She whips her back to the camera.
Yeah.
And he actually bends down to get out of like squatting to get out of the sight. Honestly, they should have listened to me. Look, well, he's really hugging her. It's tight.
Yeah, you just lean in. You have to lean in at that point.
Right?
While everyone was busy sharing that awkward footage, some insiders were already speculating that this cozy moment wasn't the first sign of a relationship between Andy and Kristen. The real story was happening backstage, in office rumors, whispered suspicions, and internal dynamics that may have already been raising eyebrows inside Astronomer long before Coldplay took the stage. And yet, what makes this situation even more fascinating is how quickly things escalated after that single comment from Chris Martin. This wasn't just gossip fodder. Andy Byron reportedly felt targeted, embarrassed, and publicly humiliated. So much so that within 48 hours, reports surfaced claiming he was exploring his legal options, not just against random online trolls, but against Coldplay's frontman himself. He feels he should have been warned prior to attending that it's possible for an attendee to be filmed, one source explained. But there's a reason I'm telling you this, because Andy's reaction might just turn a viral video into something much bigger.
I feel bad for so many people involved in this. Like, Chris Martin is one of the sweetest guys. I'm a huge Coldplay fan. Like, really a genuinely sweet guy who's trying to do the world better. He's trying to showcase people having loving moments. And it sure looks like these two are in love, Kim. Very, very confident in such a public space. Yeah. You would think they're a couple, would you not, Kim?
A full-scale legal battle that could test not only Coldplay's concert policies, but the very blurry lines between public entertainment and personal privacy. But this is only the opening act. What came next changed everything, from how fans saw Chris Martin's role in this mess, to how insiders at Astronomer began bracing for the fallout. As soon as that clip from Fenway Park hit social media, everything began to spiral fast. Within hours, the video of Andy Byron and Kristen Cabot awkwardly pulling away from each other had not only gone viral, but triggered a feeding frenzy. Twitter threads exploded with theories. Instagram accounts dedicated to decoding corporate drama dissected their body language frame by frame, and Reddit users began posting screenshots from astronomers' own company events. "Look at this photo from the holiday party. They're sitting too close," one user pointed out. "Here's a post Kristen made 3 months ago with a cryptic caption," another added. The internet wasn't just watching, it was investigating. And here's where things get really wild. Some tech industry insiders started to whisper that this cozy moment may have been the worst-kept secret inside Astronomer all along. One former employee even posted anonymously, claiming there had been quiet talk about the CEO and the HR director having a relationship. So while everyone online laughed at the awkward hug, what insiders saw was a potentially explosive situation, one that could raise serious questions about ethics, leadership, and corporate culture. But there's a reason this matters. Andy Byron didn't just lead any company. Astronomer had positioned itself as the gold standard for modern tech workplaces.
He did so many things wrong. I mean, the very first thing is, and look, I've never cheated on my wife. I'm not cheating on my wife. I love you, baby. It's her birthday.
Happy birthday.
I'm great. But if I did it, to borrow a phrase from O.J. Simpson, I sure as hell am not going to take my side chick to a stadium with 65,000 strangers.
Emphasizing transparency, trust, and above all, a culture of respect. Andy himself had just given an interview days before the concert, proudly declaring that Astronomer had zero tolerance for inappropriate workplace relationships and that ethics were the core of their success. So when this clip went viral, the stakes skyrocketed. The CEO, who had preached about integrity, was now front and center in a viral scandal that threatened to contradict every value he claimed to stand for. The real story never made headlines, one industry analyst commented, but inside tech circles, this was seen as a defining moment, a test of Andy's leadership. And what's fascinating is that while most CEOs might have issued a quick PR statement or kept their heads down, Andy reportedly took an entirely different approach. He went on the offensive. Reports surfaced that he was consulting lawyers, claiming that Chris Martin's joke had crossed a line, that it had turned an ordinary moment into a global embarrassment. But before I tell you the bombshell behind Andy's legal threat, you need context on why this escalated so quickly. Behind the scenes at Astronomer, employees were already bracing for the worst. HR was suddenly swamped with questions about what exactly was going on between Andy and Kristen, and whether any company rules had been broken. Meanwhile, investors were quietly expressing concern. In Silicon Valley, perception can move markets, and several tech reporters noted that Astronomer's name was now trending not because of its achievements, but because of gossip.
Here's Astronomer's leadership. This is Andy Byron. And right down here is the Chief People Officer. There you go. Kristen Cabot, Chief People Officer. Although the weird thing is that if you click on their LinkedIns, and poof, they're gone. Deleted their LinkedIns. Too bad, you know? They'll be a scumbag. And if you are a scumbag, then, well, I guess you deserve this.
Fans kept joking that this was the most awkward kiss cam moment of the year. But to those inside Andy Byron's orbit, it was a full-blown crisis. Keep this moment in mind. It becomes crucial later when we get to the real reason Andy's response was so aggressive, and why Chris Martin's team knew exactly how to cover themselves. Here's where things get even messier. As Andy Byron's legal team reportedly started digging for angles, the first big revelation emerged. Coldplay's event organizers had covered themselves perfectly. According to insiders familiar with concert operations at Fenway Park, every attendee walks past a clearly visible sign at the venue entrance that states all guests may be filmed, and that footage could be used publicly. This isn't some fine print hidden in a corner. It's standard policy for most major concerts, and Chris Martin's team, they reportedly knew this all along and had made sure every box was checked. There's a reason that disclaimer is there, one source explained. It protects artists, organizers, and the venue from exactly this kind of fallout. In short, from a legal standpoint, Andy's claim that he should have been warned was dead on arrival. But wait until you hear this next part. While Andy was fuming and exploring his legal options, Chris Martin wasn't worried at all. According to a close source, Chris was completely unfazed by the uproar and had even joked privately that it was just another day at the office. For him, this was nothing more than an off-the-cuff joke at a concert, a moment that should have ended with a chuckle and moved on. But the story didn't stop there. Fans began resurfacing other times Chris Martin had made spontaneous comments during concerts. Moments where he'd poked fun at couples caught on camera or made playful remarks about fans in the crowd.
They've now locked all their comments. Oh no. Oh no. Is Andy Byron and HR having an affair still hold their positions at the company? Is it ethical?
This wasn't a one-off. It was part of the Coldplay experience, something longtime fans knew to expect. So when you look at this situation in context, what seemed like a cruel jab to Andy Byron was, to most attendees, just part of the show. This detail becomes important later because it explains why public sympathy didn't land where Andy probably expected it to. Instead of viewers rallying behind the tech CEO, most people took Chris Martin's side, framing him as an artist just having fun and calling Andy thin-skinned for even considering legal action. Memes flooded the internet, joking that Andy Byron had declared war on Coldplay and that Kristen Cabot picked the wrong concert to attend. Even some media commentators weighed in, suggesting that Andy was turning a small embarrassment into a PR disaster by reacting so publicly. But behind the scenes, there was more going on than most fans realized. According to one insider, Andy's sudden rush to threaten legal action wasn't just about protecting his pride. It may have been an attempt at damage control inside Astronomer itself. The real shock comes next, this source teased. There was already tension inside the company about Andy and Kristen's close relationship. The viral video just made it impossible to ignore. In other words, this wasn't just a legal dispute, it was potentially the beginning of a much bigger internal reckoning for Astronomer. And as Chris Martin's team quietly stood their ground, Andy's situation kept spiraling, proving that what happens at a concert can quickly become a corporate crisis when reputations are on the line. As this situation exploded across the internet, things behind the scenes at Astronomer reached a boiling point. Senior executives and board members who had once praised Andy Byron for building a culture of respect were suddenly holding closed-door meetings to discuss what they now quietly called the Fenway incident. Investors who had previously been hands-off were calling daily, demanding explanations, not just for the awkward hug on the Jumbotron, but for what it implied about leadership judgment at the very top of the company. But here's where things got really wild. According to a well-placed source, there was mounting pressure to launch an internal review into Andy's relationship with Kristen Cabot, even though no formal complaint had ever been filed.
Anyway, here we go. So she brought her underling there to cover for them. The CEO's wife found out about it. She's already removed his last name from her LinkedIn and Facebook. Apparently, many people at the company knew that he was sleazy, previously worked for him. Moral of the story, don't go to a Coldplay concert.
The video alone had raised enough questions about optics, favoritism, and possible ethics violations that Astronomer's own HR department, the one Kristen oversaw, was reportedly scrambling to reassure employees that the company's policies still applied to everyone, even its CEO. This was more than just office gossip now. It was turning into a corporate crisis that could shake the very foundation of Astronomer's reputation. And then, silence. Andy Byron, who had spent days publicly expressing outrage over Chris Martin's joke, suddenly disappeared from public view. No new statements, no further threats, no explanation. But there's a reason I'm telling you this. Behind that silence, something critical was happening. According to one insider, Andy's legal team had come to a blunt conclusion. His position was weak, with clear disclaimers posted at the venue and Chris Martin's comment falling squarely within the bounds of artistic freedom. There was virtually no legal case to pursue. They told him flat out that going after Chris Martin would only keep the story alive and embarrass him further, the source revealed. So Andy, realizing the damage was already done and that any lawsuit would only make matters worse, reportedly shifted his focus internally, trying to control the fallout within his company instead. But here's where things get even more complicated. As Andy withdrew, Kristen Cabot was said to be privately considering her position at Astronomer too. While nothing official had been announced, some employees speculated that she was preparing to resign, recognizing that her ability to continue as head of HR had likely been irreparably compromised. And just when it seemed like the drama might finally quiet down, fans uncovered something else, a photo from that same night showing Andy and Kristen arriving together at Fenway Park, long before the Jumbotron incident. This was the twist that really fueled the fire online. Viewers who had initially framed the kiss cam moment as a playful misunderstanding now doubled down, convinced that there was far more to the story than either Andy or Kristen wanted to admit. This next detail changes everything, one viral tweet read. They didn't just get caught in an awkward hug, they arrived together, sat together, and clearly acted like a couple all night. Suddenly, even casual observers were invested in the unfolding saga. Fans began speculating about how this would affect Astronomer's brand, whether Kristen would leave, and how long Andy could realistically survive this scandal. By the end of that week, what started as a joke at a concert had morphed into a full-blown corporate soap opera, one where Chris Martin didn't even need to say another word for the drama to keep growing. By the start of the following week, Andy Byron's name was no longer trending for his accomplishments as CEO, it was trending for all the wrong reasons. What began as a Coldplay concert moment had spiraled into an unrelenting online spectacle. And even now, days later, the story showed no signs of slowing down. Inside Astronomer, tensions were palpable. Employees whispered in corridors and traded Slack messages late at night, wondering whether Andy would address the controversy directly or simply ride out the storm. But there was one thing everyone agreed on. The company's pristine image of leadership ethics had been shattered. And here's where things got even more ironic. The very culture of openness and accountability Andy himself had championed became the lens through which employees now scrutinized his every move. While no official statements were released, insiders confirmed that private discussions were already underway about how to restore employee trust. We all remember when this company was about innovation and respect. One employee reportedly said, "Now it feels like we're just waiting to see what happens to our CEO." Meanwhile, outside the walls of Astronomer, Chris Martin remained completely unfazed. Coldplay's tour rolled on without interruption, and some fans even noticed a subtle shift in the atmosphere at later shows. During a concert in Philadelphia, when the camera caught a couple looking awkward on the screen, Chris smiled and waved, but said nothing. It was almost as if he knew all eyes were on him, waiting for another quip that might spark more headlines. The ripple effect of that one Boston night had extended far beyond Andy Byron's personal crisis. It sparked an entire online conversation about privacy at public events, ethics in leadership, and how quickly a playful comment can turn into a viral scandal in today's digital world. And here's something you might not have noticed. Journalists were already connecting this situation to bigger patterns in corporate America. How CEOs' personal lives can quickly become company business in the age of social media, and how public figures must now navigate a landscape where every moment, no matter how small, can explode into controversy. But this isn't the end of the story. Far from it. The next phase may be even more revealing. Sources close to Astronomer suggest that Andy Byron's future as CEO is now uncertain, with board members weighing not just public perception, but also internal morale. At the same time, Kristen Cappett's position remains under intense scrutiny, with speculation that she may step down voluntarily in the coming weeks. So while the crowd's laughter at Fenway Park may have faded, the consequences are just beginning to unfold. And as for Chris Martin, his team remains confident that no legal action will succeed, but that hasn't stopped them from quietly reviewing their policies to ensure that even playful moments on camera can't come back to haunt them later. So here's the real question. In today's world, where public and private lines blur with every viral clip, how much power does one unscripted moment really have? And what does it mean for celebrities, executives, and ordinary people alike, knowing that one camera shot could change everything? Drop a comment if you think Andy Byron's reaction made things worse, or if you think Chris Martin should have handled the moment differently. And if you think this is the last we'll hear about Andy and Kristen, think again. Tomorrow, we're digging into what insiders say could be the next twist in this ongoing saga.